So good morning again. Let's continue by taking a few breaths together. So first, just exhale, let it out, and take a deep breath in. Letting go. Another deep breath in. Let go. One more deep breath. And let go. So over the course of this month, each week, the conversation we have been having is around the sacred, right? This month has been entitled The Sacred, the Mundane, and the Profane. Oh my. And we've been in this conversation for the last couple weeks about what is the sacred, right? You know, every week when I get up here, we always begin with 3 breaths together. And I do that. I've actually done that with every talk I've ever given in the last 18 years. Wow. Every time I've walked onto a stage, I've begun with 3 breaths with the room. And I do that because for me, the breath point is the place where I connect with the sacred. In almost every prayer I speak, I almost always hear myself say the words, I remember that I'm being breathed by God. That simple truth, to me, is the sacred itself. To remember that there is one life, that there is one infinite beingness, that there is one source of consciousness, one essence that is quite literally living and breathing in everyone and in everything. Right? And when we think about it, you aren't breathing. You're being breathed. If you were doing it, you could stop if you wanted to. But there's something that is breathing us. We don't do it consciously. There's something else here that is living us. And to me, that is the greatest truth. Because if I realize that that thing that is breathing me is also breathing you, is the same thing that's breathing the trees. When I exhale, the trees breathe in. When they exhale, we breathe in. Yeah. Right? The awareness of the sacred is to realize that we are so deeply interconnected with each other and with all of life. That, to me, is the definition of the sacred. It's our interconnectedness, right? And if we truly, each one of us, walked in the world from a place of the awareness of this sacredness, of the awareness of this thing that is breathing us, of the awareness of our interconnectedness, if we actually lived from that place, I guarantee you it would change how we interact with absolutely everything else. If I truly believed, if you truly believed, if we truly believed that that which is looking out through my eyes is looking out through your eyes, no matter who you are, no matter where you live, no matter where you came from, no matter how you identify, no matter what you believe, that same thing is looking out of each one of our eyes, looking back at each other, how would you treat each other if we actually knew that we were just each other's reflection? Right? Would we be able to oppress each other? Would we be able to wage war on each other? Would we be able to take this or that and claim that this is mine and not yours? No. We would recognize that we have a deep interdependence, mutual dependence, that we are all here because of and for each other. And, you know, one of my big crusades in the world is for us to bring the awareness of of the sacred to what we eat and to the way that we use our resources. And I give this opportunity for you to think about this as we go into Thanksgiving. Because for many of us, there's a feast in the next few days. We're going to come together, many of us with family or friends. And there's a lot of layers that we could be thinking about where the sacred exists and what we're paying attention to as we move into Thanksgiving this week. Because as the life of animals ends up on your table, as the environment, as the world's resources end up through the grocery store, trucked to different places, in bags, from farmers markets, in packaging, in this and that, it all comes together. And we could, each one of us, just sit down and eat till we're sick and be happy with our people and talk about the things we're grateful for. But in that, is there an awareness of the deep exchange that we are having with all of life itself in the process? Is there an awareness that those animals and plants on our table and on our plate have actually given us their lives so that we can continue to live? Do we honor the sacred with every bite? Or do we just scoop it in mindlessly and just enjoy ourselves? Right? I'm not saying we can't enjoy ourselves. I actually believe in neuroscience, and multiple researchers in the last few decades have learned that actually when we pause before we eat food, when we express our gratitude, when we do something like pray before our meal, when we look at the sacredness of what we are eating and honor the life that is there, guess what? Your brain interprets it as tasting better. You appreciate, your senses open. There's an essence that we are able to experience that's not there when we're just taking it out of a package and putting it in our mouth. Right? The brain, the body, the human system is primed for us to see and experience the sacred, but we actually have to go through the process of waking ourselves up to see it. And you know, in my own journey of decolonizing my own mind, I go really back and forth with whether or not I want to participate in a lot of our traditional American holidays. Because I heard something recently, and my synthesis students have heard this, that ritual is the way that we live out our mythology. And all of our holidays are rituals. That meal that you have, that gathering that you create, that special thing you do on that certain day, it's a ritual. And in that ritual, you're reenacting a story. And as you sit down at your Thanksgiving table, are you acknowledging the ritual that you're playing out? Are we acknowledging the maybe not so true stories that many of us have been taught about this first Thanksgiving? Do we take the opportunity to acknowledge our privilege? Do we take the opportunity to acknowledge all that we have at the expense of others? Do we take the opportunity to recognize the sacredness of life? Do we take the opportunity as we sit down with all of our abundance and acknowledge the people who are oppressed, who have not? The people whose land we have stolen, on which we are celebrating. Right? In a big way, I believe that activating the sacred is first simply an activity of acknowledgement. That when we acknowledge the land, when we acknowledge our ancestors, when we acknowledge the lives that have been given for ours, when we acknowledge the beauty, when we acknowledge, we activate our own awareness. And in that activation, we can then perceive the truth that is hidden right underneath the surface, which is all of this is made of God's stuff. All of this is pure essence, pure energy, pure light. And yet there's layers of experience and all these perceptions all up on top of it. And so I want to invite us as we move into not just this Thanksgiving week, but into the holiday season, to really use the next month and a half as we move into winter and all the celebrations that come with that, as an opportunity for each one of us to begin to look at how we are acknowledging the sacred, how we are activating it, how we are bringing it into our awareness. Because the way that we celebrate activates something in us. And the rituals can perpetuate our ignorance, or they can awaken us to new perceptions. And I want to be a people who are continuously awakening to new ways of seeing, to new ways of being. And the thing is that I think one of the best ways to cultivate the awareness of the sacred in our lives is not just through acknowledgement, but through the cultivation of awe. When we are awestruck, we are in the presence of God. Right? And there's so much abundance available to us in this world, especially in this Western world that we all live in. And that if we actually think about the lives of the animals that are on our plates, if we think about the interchange we're having with the entire planet for the food that we eat to get to us, there's an element of awe there. Right? Thich Nhat Hanh, you hear me talk about Thich Nhat Hanh a lot. Thich Nhat Hanh says when you look at a flower, do you see the flower? Or when you look at the flower, do you see the sunlight? Do you see the rain? Do you see the successive generations of seeds? Do you see the pollinators? Do you see the entire interweb of life? Do you see the clouds in the sky? All of which are included in the flower itself. Right? You could contemplate that slice of turkey on Thanksgiving and realize that it is made of exploded stars that died billions of years ago, that sent their bodies out into this planet Earth, that then got sucked up through plants, that then got eaten by something else, that ended up in this body of this thing, that ended up shipped across the country, that ended up in a grocery store, and then in a freezer, and then in your oven, and then on your plate. There's 14 billion years of activity in that slice of turkey. Right? And if we're willing to just pause long enough to acknowledge that, you will sense, you will feel, you will perceive the explosion of those stars in every bite. Right? Yes. And then what if we just started to live that way? To start to look at each other and look for that 14 billion year history sparkling in each other's eyes. Right? There's an opportunity for us always to be in awe of the world that we live in. My friend Edika Luckett, who's no longer in this world physically, used to say and has a song that one of the lines is, "If you're not in awe, you're not paying attention." Yes. Amen. If you're not in awe, you're not paying attention. The world we live in is beautiful. It is magnificent. Everything is sacred. And I guarantee you that 99.9999999% of all of the issues that are plaguing humanity right now are because we have lost our connection to the sacred. If we remembered that the earth was sacred, if we remembered that the biosphere was sacred, if we remembered that our minerals were sacred, if we remembered that each other's bodies were sacred, if we remembered that our food was sacred, we would not be dealing with all of the shit that's out there right now. It would be different if we were in a process of honoring each other, honoring the cycles of life, honoring the life force, honoring the 14 billion year history that is here, that each one of us is part of. What if we just all walked around in awe of each other? The fact that each one of us is the product of tens of thousands of generations of human history. There's so much here. Matthew Fox says that cultivation of the sacred is the antidote to hate. If we are truly, every day, each one of us, tapping into the sense of the sacred, looking for God in everything and everyone, there's suddenly no room to hate, to use, or to abuse. There's only room to honor, to love, to uplift, and to acknowledge. And so we can start today, each one of us, with the potluck. Right? Just one opportunity to look at what's in front of us and say, this is not just a cookie or a salad. This is the universe unfolding right here, right now, in front of me, for me, with me, becoming me continuously. And then to recognize that that same spiritual magnificence is looking back at you through the eyes of each and every other person. The beautiful thing about spiritual community is it's relatively easy to practice it with each other. It's a few degrees more difficult when you might walk out the door. That's what community's for. We get to practice. We get to practice seeing the truth. We get to practice being seen. We get to practice taking a moment and like, what are you doing? Well, I'm praying. You know, it's like we get to be in that with each other. And then you're a little bit more comfortable when you do it in a restaurant or when you're walking through the grocery store and the light of God's shining through your eyes. Like, it's a little bit easier because you've practiced it with other people who are trying to do the same thing. And then we become the ones who, as we walk in the world, we start activating this awareness of the sacred because we're out there looking for it. And what we know is that which you are looking for is looking for you. So we begin the play. The universe is fabulously interactive. So start looking. Start acknowledging. Start recognizing that the sacred, that the activity of the universe is right here unfolding in front of our eyes in every moment. And then notice that it starts to show up. It starts to look back at you. It starts to reveal itself more and more and more. And so with that, take another breath and let go. If it's comfortable, close your eyes and breathe again. And as we breathe in this moment, I then just remind each one of us again that we are being breathed by something greater than ourselves. That our bodies are being breathed by God. Because what I know truly is that there is one seamless presence that is living and breathing throughout the entirety of the universe. That it is this one who is unfolding in, through, and as everyone, everything, every when, everywhere, all the time, God and only God. The activity of the universe is the life of this one. And it is unfolding in every moment, in every situation, in every particle, in every plant, in every person across this planet. There's one life is living through all that is. And so let us remember today the truth of who we are. That each one of us is the universe alive. That we are made of stardust. That we are the light and the life of the one. And as we recognize that about ourselves, we then begin to look for it in the world. We look for it in each other. We see it in our food. We recognize that the very land on which we stand is sacred because it is alive. We recognize that our Mother Earth is our body. We are one with the planet, with the biosphere, with all of life, with every single person on the planet. We are one family. And so let us acknowledge the greatest possible truth, that life is sacred, that all life is sacred. And then begin to live and move and be in a way that each one of our lives is the activity of bringing the awareness of the sacred to the forefront and revealing it to ourselves and to those around us. And so in this moment, I just speak a word of gratitude to the life that is living us, to the planet that holds us, to to that one breath that breathes us all. I give it my gratitude. And so in this moment, I just invite each one of us to let go, to exhale, to let it out, and then feel the breath rush back in, the one life breathing us all.